Oh yeah, we are.
Well, hello. It's been a while since we've been live, guys. We have been super busy. We got some good, exciting stuff in the works. For example, an app that's going to be coming out here right away. That's going to be one of the reasons we wanted to do it was create a safe place or a safer place for people to leave comments and questions. Because a lot of what we talk about is really scary. It's really challenging for people to get out in the open. And a lot of people are obviously clearly comfortable with commenting on social media on the posts and saying where they're really at and what they'd like help with or even venting. But
But a
it's
lot of people are not. A
yeah,
lot of people use their fake name on social media. They're not comfortable commenting. They don't want their friends to see. They don't want their husband or their wife to see.
yeah. So that's really exciting. So we just had a lot on the go, as you know, from some of our last lives, like a lot with courses and education that we're doing right now too, and just always trying to keep forward and keep growing and moving forward. Sorry, keep growing and learning. But anyways, we wanted to quickly do an impromptu live here and get to any questions that you might have. We're using a new software system today because we had a lot of problems with the old one. So hopefully, as your comments come in, we'll start to see.
Yeah, send us some comments. I see that there's
16 people so
quite a
far
few
viewing.
people watching. So send us some comments so we see if they come through.
Yeah, please. And in the meantime, let's just get started. So one of the things that we're noticing a lot of, so if you don't know us very well yet, our programs run completely independently from each other. What does that mean? It means that if you're the person that is on the phone call with me, or you're the person that's on the phone call with Kathryn, so men with me, women with Kathryn, that means you're the person in leadership. You're the person who wants to make a change because we're always doing what we're supposed to do, right? Saying what we're supposed to say, and
Who's we? Us?
no, I mean people,
Oh.
people in general, right? Like society has a certain expectation of characteristics that you have to portray. And one of those would be, yeah, of course I'm working on my marriage. I'm going to therapy with you, or I'm researching this, or I'm reading that book, or I told you I want to fix everything. And you hear the defensiveness in my tone. That's because when you said you wanted to do it, quite often you didn't want to do it. So that's where it comes from for our programs. We realize there's a push-pull in the relationships. And what we're really seeing a lot of, the more and more people we work with, and it is becoming more and more couples, which is super cool. But the more we're seeing is that because there's defined roles in the home, whatever it is that you guys created, the examples you were shown that you built off of, the agreements that you made, and I can give some examples if you want. But what we're finding is that it can be challenging, of course, for somebody to step into their new role, to be trying to take back responsibility for themselves, ownership of themselves, and become that leading partner, to i.e. create the partnership. By the way, please send in a comment or something like that because we can't
Yeah, there's no
we're
comments
not
coming
seeing things.
through.
Maybe they're not working. Oh, hold on.
Oh,
Okay,
there
they
we
are
go.
coming in.
Got a
Awesome.
few.
There we go. Thank you. So
Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
what we're finding is this, guys, like I keep saying finding, that's the wrong word. What we're really proving and verifying is the same thing that we saw in our marriage, right? When I started taking responsibility for my side, stop with the narcissistic behavior, stop love bombing into to extreme fucking shame, blame, guilt throwing, right? Um, I was in at that moment. I'm starting to make all these changes, and Kathryn was pulling away. Okay, that's the push pull that we talk about. And there were lots of ups and downs for us where, she would start to, like, when she started taking her first courses and stuff, which was well after I started. But I got really hurt and really resentful. I got really angry. Like,
We were never on the same page at the same time, which is, I think, what my husband's trying to say. That's why we created our programs to run independently. So if you are the woman and you're the one that wants to do the work at this point in your marriage, you come to me. If you're the man and you're the one that wants to do the work at this point in your marriage, we know that it's been back and forth. Your wife probably tried. Your husband probably tried. You're resentful. You're bitter. You're angry. So we give you a place where men can go work with Cass instead of dragging their poor wife kicking and screaming. Or likewise, you can come work with me instead of kicking. Don't kick your husband.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I had one wife kick a guy in the balls once.
ooh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I've never done that.
No, not. Yeah. Oh, sorry, not me. I had a wife. I mean, one guy I work with.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. But anyway, that's why we run independently. So for anyone that's new, doesn't understand, thinks it's for couples, it could be for couples. Like he said, we are increasingly getting the number of couples enrolling, which is awesome. And that just means the man is in the program and the woman is in the program, but the programs still run independently.
Yeah, we
They're
don't
still not
talk about
together.
you guys and all that stuff.
Very little.
Yeah, very little.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because we've got a lot of people, as always, that are jumping in, taking responsibility for side, and accepting the accountability they need to take on themselves. And of course, their partner doesn't necessarily follow it, isn't necessarily right on board, right? And it's just more and more proof that we're doing things right, because we can continue to work with you individually to keep pushing you. But I wanted to give some encouragement for those of you. I get so many DMs about people saying, your posts are helping my marriage. I had a guy join my program the other day. For 6 months, he's been following my content and noticed so many improvements and changes. And that's the common theme, is that, of course, your partner, depending on how long it's been for you guys, how bad the traumatic experiences are, somebody in the comments, we'll address here in a second, is talking about their narcissistic husband. When things are bad, it's really hard to just believe the changes are real. But that's why I put out so much content about taking responsibility for your side, about owning who you are and be proud of who you are. Look in the mirror. At the end of the day, if you need to, think about the example you're setting for your kids. You got to do this, because if you really dig deep, this is probably going on in a whole lot of other aspects of your life, right? Maybe it's with your job. Maybe it's with other friends or family members, the other relationships in your life. Maybe it's with your kids, right? And so when you can start to look at that and really reflect, you can go, oh, okay, I need to make some changes. And even though my partner's not necessarily following right away, who do I want to be? Ultimately, that's the consistency you need to have if you want to bring your partner along on this ride. So this comes up a lot when you're thinking about, I've already tried everything. No, you haven't, or you've not implemented everything. I had a guy yesterday, he's like, I'm in the program right now and I'm already through all the content and like I do everything already. And then he started listing off how his wife is still triggered from the past, and he started listing all these things. I go, you missed the whole first 2 steps of the process. Number one. Number two, dude, she had all those issues that you're talking about before you met her, which means you're just quitting, which means you missed all the integrity parts of the program, blah, 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 blah. I can go on and on and on. And I got this from a 2-paragraph text message. Okay. We're that good. We've been seeing this stuff so long. We can pull out your words, your tone, everything. So I encourage you, if you are really thinking you've done everything, to dig a little bit deeper, because you're not. If we can survive it, it's not because we're special. It's because we chose to actually stop pushing and pulling and start pushing together forward. Okay. So let's get to some questions while they're coming in here. My narcissistic got our car. Oh, I just assumed his husband. Oh yeah, because Teresa. My narcissistic husband got our car repossessed today, but it's not his fault though. Well, I mean, I don't know the story. It might not be his fault. I think, of course, it should be, obviously, but I don't know the whole depths and the details. I'll give you an example. After COVID, we lost our house, we lost our truck, we lost our muscle cars, we lost everything. We even got evicted from a condo we lived in. That was not our fault, but it was our fault. We were bad with money. So it depends which story you're looking at. The government shut down our business, but we were irresponsible with our money before that happened. Maybe we should have paid off the vehicles in the house before instead of blowing all our money. You know what I mean? So chances are yes, but there's probably more that goes into that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what I thought of when I saw that comment, Teresa, come up is he might think it's not his fault. And my advice to you is that if he's acting narcissistically, you're not going to be able to convince him that it is his fault. So until you're showing up differently and opening him up to be able to have conversations, it's going to be a waste of your time, energy, and breath to try to convince him that it is his fault. All he's going to do is get more defensive and more angry and get worse.
Okay, so we got another comment coming in about how she loves her narcissist husband, but doesn't know how to deal with it. Okay, so let's give you guys a little bit of background on this, right? So first and foremost, a lot of comments come in going, well, he's never gonna or she's never gonna change. Okay, that may or may not be the case. In our situation, I recognize that I didn't like being angry. I recognize that it was awesome feeling really happy and good for a few days because I was used to a daily ritual of starting a fight. Okay, picking at somebody. When I married Kathryn, it became the brunt of it to Kathryn. But that didn't mean I wouldn't find 2 fights that day. Somebody else too. Okay, that's the only life that I knew. And along with that came all the reasons why it wasn't my fault. So let's just start with that with narcissism. We don't have to elaborate too much more. I'm sure you're catching the drift. Now, sure, I made a choice. And you are all told by everyone on social media, every book you're reading, studies, this stuff is not mainstream enough except for the bullshit. The bullshit's all mainstream saying they can't change. They have to want to change. If they don't, it'll never, ever happen. It'll never occur. Listen, just because I decided I like to chase a happy feeling instead of an angry feeling, that was the start of my journey. But Kathryn just gave an example with the last question. She did a lot of work to support me because your narcissistic spouse, they don't know any better. Okay. We don't know if it's genetic. We don't know if it's learned behavior. It comes from some abuse. It's kind of inconclusive.
There's so
right now.
many different things that could contribute to narcissism. There's so much research out there,
It's-
and it's all conflicting.
Yeah, and
I mean, there's
especially
lots that is not conflicting, but it's all conflicting.
and especially if you break down individual traits, guys, right? I mean, you could start to really look at where each trait is coming from, all encompassed in the little container called narcissism. Okay. You don't actually know, but the person that you love that's portraying all these qualities to you that you can't stand, they don't have an understanding, right? So they're usually coming from a fear-based, an insecure-based, a threat-based, trauma-based, threat-based, like that's their upbringing, that's their programming. They don't know how to respond. So chances are the love bomb that you're getting, which I was so guilty of too, like that means just as much to them as all the other stuff. They just don't understand. So if you can lead with a little empathy, you can encourage them to want to feel feelings like I felt. It's not like I made a choice and so yeah, Kathryn's got the lucky narc. That's not how it works, and that's what people seem to think. Kathryn did a lot of work to help me through that. And again, this is during our push-pull when we had no idea what the freak we were doing. Okay. So you need to understand, you might have a narcissistic spouse. You might have just an abusing spouse because they were abused. We can go down all different kinds of paths, all the bad shit that nobody wants to have, which is why you're following us. Okay. At the end of the day, it is not your responsibility to fix them, but you're in this relationship now. And you probably encouraged a lot of the behaviors, like made them worse. I was already an asshole, no doubt.
I made him a bigger asshole.
But she made me a
For
bigger
sure.
one for sure. And she definitely had a lot of terrible, abusive, toxic, all the mainstream words, right? All those traits too. But we could say I brought them out. Who cares? Now you guys are going to he said, she said. What is it that you actually want? And you push forward for that. That does not mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean it's going to be fun, but it's so worth it, right?
Yeah.
The other day she pulled out a shirt from the dryer and she goes, "Oh my God, baby, I'm sorry, I got all wrinkly." And she wasn't scared or anything like the old days. And
I would have just rewashed it if it was 5 years ago.
And she just started laughing. And I go, "What's up, babe?" She goes like, at first I said like, "Oh, that's totally cool, babe, whatever." And then she started laughing and she goes, "Man, I remember some steaks one time, not pulling them out of the freezer in time, and they were frozen and you came unglued." I was like,
I didn't know when he was going to get mad. It was
Yeah.
about like, I forgot to take steaks out of the freezer. Like, who cares? I got his shirt wrinkly. Oh, you don't love me anymore. Oh, because I got your shirt wrinkly?
Yeah,
What?
that's how it works, guys.
What?
If you don't understand, you just don't understand, right? So
But he needed empathy, he needed love, he needed support. And, you know, we're not saying that you need to tolerate abuse or that you need to tolerate narcissism, but I didn't want to leave my husband. So if your husband's a narcissist, no doubt he love bombed you. That is proof that he knows how to make you happy. Did you not love it? Did you fall in love with the love bomb? Yeah, you did. He knows how to do that again. He isn't doing it right now. Why?
I love that you're talking like just saying it like this. This is such a beautiful way this is a beautiful way to understand it.
Yeah, because you were capable of doing it again. And that's sometimes is why it's the roller coaster, because your husband is love bombing and then he's swearing at you and calling you names and then love bombing and then swearing at you and calling you names. He knows what to do, but he's not 100% with it, but he needs support. Is it your responsibility? No. If he's abusing you, you don't have to stay. If he's physically abusing you, get out, find safety, bring your kids with you, bring your pets with you, whatever you need to do. We do not condone any of that. Make yourself safe first. But with emotional abuse, it's usually almost always, it's not just one person. If it is just one person and you're letting it go and letting it go and letting it go, why are you continuing to let it go? Why aren't you doing something different? Whether that's something different for you, whether it's supporting your husband, whether it's setting some really firm boundaries so that your husband can get help. It shouldn't be going on and on and on. It went on and on and on for us because it was two-way. So he was really narcissistic and I was reactive. Like he said, I thought I was an angel. But apparently,
you are.
Apparently, now. I'm not. Apparently, I wasn't. Apparently, I was abusive. No, I was definitely emotionally abusive too. And I think the difference is if all you're experiencing is abuse, get out. But if your husband is emotionally abusing you and you're emotionally abusing him back, like don't post all over social media that your husband's an asshole, which we never
or
did,
narc,
by the way.
or whatever.
Yeah, don't say it.
Chances are
Because
most of us have to dig deep. You're portraying some of those qualities unless you've done work. Like if you get defensive at all and start throwing blame, this is where narcissism starts. Okay. For most people, it's just the easiest way to look at it. Doesn't mean you're a narc, but it just means it goes back to responsibility. You've got to be able to take control of who you are and the reflection in the mirror for yourself. Okay.
And bring up a new level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
So first you have to have that self-awareness that you're being defensive. Then you have to have the tools and the skills to not be defensive. And then when you are defensive, you need to have the tools and the skills to pull that back in. You need to know how to apologize, how to make it better, how to uplift your partner, all of those things.
Yeah. It's kind of like one of the big things that we focus on is, of course, communication is key. I really like to tell my guys, fuck communication. It's conversation. Most of the time you're told communication is key. Don't go to bed angry, blah, 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 blah. You know, you've got to talk your way through it. Here's the thing. If you don't have the skills, i.e. you get defensive and you go down the wrong path, never mind even going down the toxic path. Okay. You're just defending yourself. That's not leading with empathy. That's not feeling what your partner's feeling. That's protecting survival mode for whatever reason, based on your past with your spouse, whatever. So you're better off learning some skills before you even start having conversations, communications. The little minor setback in time will be worth it, right? Oh my God, we're not talking for 30 days. Fuck, if that's what you literally had to do, which we don't tell you guys to do, but can you imagine you don't talk for 30 days and the anxiety you feel at that? Oh my gosh, versus learning some skills and actually having conversations and getting somewhere. Now let's say you don't take that 30 days. And again, we don't tell you to not take 30 or tell you to take 30 days off of talking, but just imagine that for a second. If you don't take the time, but now it's a year, another year. How many years has it been already where you're not communicating because you just get defensive? And where does that go?
And then you're ignoring each other. By the way, we work with the extreme cases. And so the whole don't go to bed angry and, communicate your way through it, that does work for some couples. Those couples are not if you're watching this, you are not part of that couple. So you can't listen to that advice.
Yeah. Like I would say like the first 6 months, we started to go really big last year, right? February is when it really started. And I'd say for the first 6 months, a lot, like 50% of the people that came to us were like 95% great. They're just missing this intimacy part, but since then, because we've been so real and raw with our story, we're really given the opportunity to help people all over the world that are in the thick of it, like we were.
Extreme.
Yeah. And this is actually, it's not that of course, if it's not that bad, that's why I put up content saying, well, if it's not as bad as I was, right? Physical, emotional, sexual abuse, like, the extreme narcissism, the extreme, I call it violent conversations, right? Like, then what's your problem? Get in touch and let's get this thing done. But otherwise though, most of the time it's just really bad. It's really tough. So we get that. Did you find one there?
I just clicked on new comments.
A lot of people can't see themselves until they step away. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that we do in our programs is put you in a community of so women with Kathryn, men with me. Mine is called Marriage Lords. The old, if you teach, you can't. That's such crap, because just based off what you're saying, that's right. You have to looking inside out. It's really hard. Even just looking for the future for your goals, right? For where your marriage is actually going to go. What you did wrong, looking inside out, is very hard. But you talk to somebody who's like-minded, going through the same things. And again, not just us, like our communities. Then what'll happen is you can reflect. You'll be like, oh, you know what? I would have done this, this, and this. Have you tried that? And then you start to think, oh man, what is it that I could have done that differently too, like in that last instance, or actually the last 5. And going forward, that's what I'd like to do. So it's really, really powerful to step away by stepping into people going through the same thing, into their relationship. But I really want to strongly encourage you, don't just pick and choose your friends that's married and you're like, we should talk to them about it, because most people aren't learning. You should be people that are at least at the same level of growth as you, or ahead of you, or else,
ideally ahead of you.
Ideally is, yeah, of course, that's way more ideal. So the problem is it's just like anything else. If you start hanging around people that are working 9 to 5 and you want to be a business owner, they make you feel guilty because you miss going out for dinner with them and this whatever event on St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. Like, that's the wrong crowd. If you want to be a business owner, you need to talk to people like us, because we're business owners. You know what I mean? We're not going to ever make you feel guilty. It's the same thing with everything in life, you guys. All right, I just want to scroll up here. I saw something.
Thank you for the compliment, Lori.
Oh,
my hair looks
Melanie.
Today, she said.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Melanie, no, you should not encourage and support narcissistic behavior. I'm sorry if you understood it that way. No, what we're saying is you should love them through it. You remind them of what the love feels like. Like Kathryn said, they're capable of it. I was very capable of it. Now it just comes from a place of love, not trying to get something in return, not trying to satisfy my own needs. It's just because I want to love my wife, right? But
I definitely did not encourage or support narcissistic behavior. So whatever I said, or whatever you thought I said,
yeah, definitely not.
The answer to that is actually fuck no, not just no. Do not support and encourage narcissistic behavior. But look within yourself and see how you might be making things worse. And people, I get a lot of heat for that because people will be like, you're not making it worse. And well, protect yourself. You need to do what you need to do to protect yourself. But most people are not, they're not diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. And part of that is because the diagnostic statistical manual number 5, the definition is really only for grandiose narcissists. So I think that the next DSM is going to include more criteria that are more people are going to be able to get diagnosed and then get help because it'll be covered by, health benefits and stuff like that. But where was I going with that? He's like, if he's a diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder or whether he's not, I don't remember what I was going to say, actually.
That's okay. I think Teresa's talking, are you talking about nice guy syndrome, the victim with covert contracts?
No, covert is a type of narcissism. You're a covert narcissist too.
Yeah, I'm just because she's talking about nice victim.
Yeah,
and,
so everybody else thinks that they're nice. So you were the nice victim. So
everybody
in the world thought you were the nicest guy ever, but then you played the victim. And
well, that's because
the
nice guys do finish last. I mean, come on. I'm just kidding. Become very reactive. Yeah, okay. So the trick with reaction, guys, is to respond. There is a gap. I can't remember the guy's name who said it in his book, but there's a gap from the symptom, from the thing, let's just say the fuse, okay? From when you feel, let's call it trigger. There's a gap from when you feel that trigger to when you actually react. And you can either respond in a chosen path or you can react. Now, does that mean we're all perfect? That not even Kathryn and I are perfect at that.
What?
Like, well, I mean, she's damn near perfect at that. But yeah, like
so is he.
You have to. But here's the thing: if you are actively choosing to respond, okay, let's just make up an example here. Let's go with your kids. So our daughter doesn't want to wear a jacket sometimes. It could be like minus 4,000 outside, and we're gonna lose our child if we don't put a jacket on her. Sure, social service will come take her away. So we'll get into this battle, right? We need to put your jacket on her. She's losing her mind. Now there's the reaction is to be like, you need to put your jacket on, and you need to
and grab her and put her jacket on and zip it up as she's screaming. That's right. A reaction.
But you can choose to respond, right? You're not getting through to her at that moment. She's too busy freaking out and screaming. She doesn't understand anything. What's the analogy with the freaking hand?
This is your prefrontal cortex.
There you go.
And when you're freaking out, your prefrontal cortex is coming offline. So you can't, when you're here, you can connect, you can make sense of everything. When you're here, you can't. And so this is just, we have a parenting coach who teaches us this is like what the brain is. And if your child is reacting that way, you cannot have a conversation with someone whose brain is like this, whether they're a child or whether they're not. Their prefrontal cortex needs to be online.
So let's think about respond versus react. So in that moment, you're getting triggered. You're feeling a little alarmed, okay? And you want to deal. Now, they're not in a position where they can listen, okay? Before you get out of control and you're reacting, you choose the situation, the response that you want to present. You're not going to be able to communicate with her right there. You're going to have to take a breath, maybe grab a blanket, put her in the vehicle with a blanket. You're going to have to choose a different response. You can do this with your spouse too, but most of the time you let the feeling, the trigger, the anxiety, the threat, whatever it is. And this could be anything like fear. I'm not good enough, that the marriage is not going to work. This is never going to work.
Fear that social services is going to come take my kid. Other parents are going to think I'm a bad dad, whatever those fears are, like with the kid too, that makes you react, but you take a step back.
Yeah. So if you choose to focus on what you want, i.e. this is a great time to not be defensive and realize, it's not about defending yourself as a great parent and why they need a jacket because it's minus 4,000 outside. It's the same thing with your spouse. And if you don't believe me, how far have you gotten? Just starting with just defensiveness, not even getting to the big ones, the ugly ones, right? Does that make sense? All right.
It's very good.
Thank you, baby. Yeah, it totally makes sense. I don't think that's what it was about, but hide current comment. All right. My husband will be calm and we will be talking. And all of a sudden he says god awful comments that stumps me. And I don't even say anything. And I'm shocked. Then he will lie about what he meant and ignores me and refuses to. So I would have to know like an example of one of your comments. Obviously, my thought is like just pretending you're watching a TV show and all of a sudden, well, you're talking actually, you say. So you're having this conversation. He got triggered there in his own self, right? Good examples. Let's say, so actually, I'll use TV because say we like to watch reality TV shows. Guys, if you want to give your wife some good drama, just let her watch reality shows. Enjoy the shows with her. Get the drama out. And then it's positive. It's not negative drama. Just tip. Now, so we watch these reality shows and, you know, in the old days, you know, a lot of these Netflix ones are like these singles, these kids or whatever, right? And the old days, that would have triggered my insecurity, right? From our past lives and, you know, our lack of intimacy and, you know, all the fear I'm not good enough, fear the marriage is going to be over, fear that she doesn't love me because we're not having sex, whatever. And so
we could be watching just a regular Netflix show, and all of a sudden he might be saying shitty things like your husband is saying.
Yeah.
So I had no idea where it was coming from, but it's coming from he saw a man that maybe I thought was attractive, and now he's all of a sudden calling me a cunt because there was a guy on Netflix.
Yeah.
So your husband, we can't say what's going on in his mind, but that's why he's making this comparison, because it probably has nothing to do with you or something related to you, but really. And
now you said you weren't watching a show on Netflix. So maybe you did say something and it triggered him. You know, triggers are like they happen fast. There's an example I love to use. I threw some baby wipes or a diaper, I can't remember, towards Kathryn. And it hooked on my finger as I threw it, and so it clipped Kathryn's head instead of going where I wanted to go. And so about 3 minutes, maybe a minute later, I was grabbing something else and throwing it on the other couch, but she couldn't see me. So she just saw it come from the other room. And she cowered. Like that's how fast a trigger happens, guys. Okay. And that's just
subconsciously.
Exactly.
I know he's not. I know my husband didn't throw the wipes at me. I know.
I mean, in the old days, I probably would have.
You might have.
I mean, I definitely would have.
Triggers are not based on logic. So he threw the baby wipes, it hit me, and then he goes to throw a t-shirt. I think it's going to hit me, and so I cower. The logical side of me knows that my husband, not only does a shirt not hurt if it hits me, but my husband's not going to throw anything at me, wipes or a shirt. But I'm ducking because my physiological response is to protect myself. It's a trigger.
Right. And so if you're having a conversation and you or your husband get triggered, I mean, it could be anything from anything that's happened in your past, some of your last fights. Maybe you actually think he's yelling and he's not. That's actually could be on you, where it's not working for you connecting the dots right now, just because you're being triggered, right? I'm going to say that's not what happened based off what you're saying. But
awful comments, yeah.
He's just saying awful things. He's being mean. So whatever triggered him, he's in protection mode. And this kind of feeds into, somebody said, oh, it's the same person, Loretta. He's always the victim and attention seeking. Listen, guys, if you want to learn to love your spouse through victim triangle shit, you need to understand victims don't know they're victims. I really learned this the hard way, not for myself, actually replying to comments on social media from all the victim men, right? Why is it always the man that has to fix it? It takes two. This goes both ways. Listen, anyone, I could list 500 different comments, but those three alone right there, all they're saying is, I'm being defensive. So feeds really well into the conversation we're having today, right? If you have to talk about the fact that your partner needs to show up too, you have not taken responsibility for your side, because their side has nothing to do with it. And
we know your husband or your wife has to show up too, but we do, we try to zoom out. So Loretta, I didn't read your other messages, but one of the reasons that I'm not reading them is because I feel like the details are very specific, but I think that the details don't matter. So if you were to zoom out of your life, his reactions and the way he's responding and the way you're responding, that's the bigger picture. What do you do about it? How should you move forward? The little details don't really matter, because it's probably the same sort of reactions all the time. So if you, again, I'm going to say zoom out and think about all the things that are happening. What is the underlying cause? What is that, common denominator reaction? What is all of that? We are going to have to wrap it up pretty soon, because I have other stuff.
Okay. So yeah, the point is, if your spouse is in the victim mentality, and by the way, pretty much everybody gets there. This is where defensiveness comes from. So you're going to have to stop blaming and start leading by not being a victim yourself. How do you do that? Well, when they're being a victim, you start with loving them through it. What are they feeling and why? Right? Try to understand. So if he's spitting in your face, this is a really bad example, because he's spitting in your face, but just imagine.
But
go ahead.
You did it.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, so it's not, that's not acceptable, but that behavior is coming from somewhere. I don't excuse my husband for, he spit hot coffee in my face. I don't excuse him for that, but I do empathize with, like, nobody wants to be spitting in someone else's face. Nobody wants to be that disconnected and dysregulated from their own emotions that they want to spit in somebody's face. That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah.
But he didn't want that. And so you don't have to, it's not your responsibility, but it seems like you've been together for 18 years. You just started counseling. So you are taking it on. You do want things to get better. She wants things to get better. That's where I was, just wasn't 18 years, but.
So when your spouse is being a victim, they don't understand they're being a victim. And it's this triangle, guys. It's like I'm up here trying to fix something. Down here, I'm not good enough because I couldn't fix it. Over here, I'm going to try to sabotage it just because it's not ever going to work again. Oh, wait, I feel bad again. So I'm really sorry. I got to fix something. Back down to being a victim. I can never do it again. Right back over here to sabotaging. Guys, it's a triangle. I didn't make this shit up. It's normal. So if you want to get out of the triangle, then you have to do something different, because a victim is not seeing anything besides the three walls. That's it. Or path, or however you want to look at it. And now you can kind of go back and forth, not everybody talks about it that way. That's what I saw in my own life. I go back and forth. I would sabotage while I was feeling like I was so great. Right. And I wouldn't even take a jump. I wouldn't even separate them. So you have to choose to love them through it. You have to choose to lead with empathy, like
if somebody would have did that when, like, for example, my husband, if someone would have loved him through it as a child, he probably most definitely wouldn't have been as bad, but he probably wouldn't have had the same issues. He never had anybody in his life that actually showed him love and compassion and empathy and gratitude in a genuine way. Anybody would be messed up from that.
You have to understand, Loretta's asking, how do I approach him with a lie I know he's told me? And this is the last question, guys, because we have to go here. But if somebody is lying, until they're ready to start taking responsibility for themselves, they're just going to continue to lie. I was the king of lies. Nice guys lie all the time because we're afraid to admit our flaws.
Explain nice guys.
Nice guys is like the guy who thinks he's such a great guy and he's throwing in your face, but he's giving to get. He's caretaking. Like everything is called a covert contract. Everything that a nice guy does. And there's nice girls too. It's just that it was coined by a doctor, Dr. Glover, who wrote this about men for himself, actually.
So nice guys aren't actually nice.
Yeah, they're not actually.
He says nice guys lie. No, real nice guys don't lie. But the nice guy
syndrome. Yeah. So when you're a liar, you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your own shame for not being good enough, or not getting approval, or just afraid of getting disapproval, and so you lie. And it's not just to be right. It's really deeper. This is much deeper. This is why we get into a lot more stuff on coaching than you could ever with some of the content, even in questions like this, because this is really specific as to your programming, what's happened and why. There's generalizations for sure. But and what I've learned is not every nice guy had a terrible upbringing, like the way the book pretty much describes. It's actually, and I'm certified to be one of his coaches. It's like, what I've learned is if the connection fades in a marriage, nice guys are born every single day. It's right. Like you just don't have the intimacy that you want. And I think nice girls are born too. You just don't have the connection you want. You don't have the emotional connection, the physical connection, everything is. So you're seeking to do things for these covert contracts to be filled. If I do this, I'll get love in return. And so we have to break a lot of this cycle. That's why a lot of the work that we do is about it's all about yourself. It's just, I describe it like you're the race car and the wife is just a racing stripes, So there's just a lot that goes into it, but to recognize the lies, you got to, and to stop that, it was not about, I'm just going to start telling the truth. I will directly give that first instruction when I find out a guy's lying to his wife. Sure. But excuse me, we have to go much deeper and look at the reason why he's lying. Okay. All right, guys, appreciate you today. We're going to try to do this a little more impromptu because obviously keeping it at nighttime is just not working for us with everything else we have on the go.
I want to address one comment before you say that.
Sure.
I don't care what the childhood was like. We know right from wrong. That has been proven to be inaccurate.
Yeah.
The childhood, things that happen in childhood, we don't have time to go through it today, nor is it our specialty, but that is absolutely not true. The reason that the world is the way that it is because there's a cycle that's perpetuated and not everybody knows right from wrong. So
yeah, I didn't even understand. Like the comment was, this is amazing. We're only fighting every 3 days. That triggered.
I was like, that's not normal.
Yeah,
so there's a lot that comes from childhood. And again, this isn't our specialty, but that comment, it's okay for you not to care what someone's childhood was like, but that's not the position that we come from. And that's not the position that we teach from, because we do teach empathy and compassion, and things can be changed and people can change. and we support that change. We don't support abuse, but we do support progress and change.
Well, and she might be saying that too, because she's saying, you should know right from wrong. But
yeah, she's just talking about mistreatment, which I get,
Yeah.
but it's not an excuse, but it is a reason. The way that people were treated as children, it is absolutely a reason for the people that they are today.
I would actually, I'll finish with this. Forget that for a second, but how perfect have your actions and reactions, responses been to behavior that they should have known better, right? Because
No, Teresa, you don't just catch an Uber and love him. Sorry. I'm not saying that you have to tolerate anything, but we don't know enough about your situation. But I do have a strong opinion about children. Doesn't mean that you need to excuse his behavior. Maybe you need to get on the phone with me and potentially be in my program where you can learn the real ins and outs of what you need to do and what you need to say. And I can understand the gravity of his narcissism, because that comes into place as well.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
All right.
But yeah.
Love you guys.
See you guys soon. All right. Thanks. Bye.